Hello, America. Welcome to another episode of the Ryan Mack Show. I am your host, Ryan McKenzie. Today, I want to get to something that I think is going to really ramp up your information and knowledge of who the left really is and what they make up. The obsessive nature of the left is the topic for today's episode. But first, a couple of housekeeping measures. Election update going on another week now. It's going to be almost a week coming tomorrow. We still have undecided races to count. We still have some states that have about half to just over half not counted yet. So we're waiting on finishing those counts like we did in 2020. And we know the disaster, how that worked out. So, quick update there. The House count is 212 Republicans to 204. So, there's still about 19 seats left to be counted and finished. And hopefully, the House is taken over by the Republicans. The Senate is 50-49 Democrats. We all know that Democrats retained control of the Senate. So, that is your election update. Locally, we still don't have an answer on election or Amendment 1 in Illinois. If it's passed yet, it's currently at 58% yes. So that is the current update there locally. So the obsessive nature of the left. We all know the left is obsessed with Trump, right? That's kind of obvious. I don't need to go into detail about what that is, but we all have seen the explosion, the pearl grabbing, the crying meltdown, insanity that they do when anything mentions Trump. So what are their obsessions? Well, there's a lot of them. But beyond Trump and anything that goes against their party line, there's 5 things that I came up with that is more important than just Trump and disagreements. We all know that they have a disagreement. Anytime you have a disagreement, they aim to shut you down, right? So that's what we know so far, that censorship is a big thing they like to do too. But that's not really an obsession. So number 1, they're obsessed with power. Well, Ryan, gee, that sounds obvious, right? Yeah, but it's a little more than that. We already know that they will do anything to keep and obtain it. We already know without really providing a whole lot of evidence lately. They're lying, they're cheating, they're stealing. Through elections, there are fraudulent things that happen. They will spend all kinds of money to steal elections. They will lie on the messaging. They're very hypocritical on the messaging. Now remember, one thing that Bongino talks about and others, I think it's Dan's major key point here. They know they are hypocritical in their messaging. They know that. That's why they don't have an issue with it. Their issue is hierarchy. They're in charge. We're supposed to sit down and shut up and take it. They know they're hypocritical. There's nothing they can do to change that. So we have to play by their rules if we want to win and change the rules. What does that mean? Well, in order to win elections in the current climate, they have the rules stacked where early voting and mail-in voting is primary way of getting their vote crossed before even election day even occurs. And Republicans have this message, and it's nothing that it's wrong. It's their only message on elections. Vote the day of. Now, I vote the day on. Something that I try to do. I always have the option to do so I try to vote on the day of. But anymore, we're seeing that elections have been decided well before Election Day because of the mail-in balloting and become early voting because of early voting access. So the messaging, Democrats have definitely won, and that's deciding their elections, the early vote and mail-in balloting. So until it changes, until you change the rules, you have to win elections to change the rules. In order to change the rules, you have to win, and the Republicans have to change their message. So play by their rules, play their game in order to win, and change the rules. Now, I think the rules should be changed. I don't think there should be mass mail-in balloting allowed, mail-in voting. I don't think there should be 4,800 days of voting. I think there needs to be one night of elections. I think you can count the votes as soon as they start coming in, well before Election Day if they're early voting or mail-in balloting. Florida has probably the most secure way of voting. They eliminated mass mail-in balloting. They eliminated some of the muck that other states like to do as far as counting. They counted 7.5 million votes on election night in 5 hours. And California is still counting at 50%. That needs to change. So, number 2, well, we know this one's obvious. Their obsession with money. They like to spend money. They also like to get money. Where do they get their money? Well, fundraising. They have deep interest groups. They have a millionaire who doesn't even live in this country, sought to destroy this country from within, and that's George Soros. His money and tentacles are far-reaching in the progressive left. He has given hundreds of millions of dollars to liberal DAs across the country. We've seen the catastrophes they have caused with no bail laws and criminal activity up almost 100% in those cities. They don't like citizens who obey laws. So there's that. But money, okay? Money is the root of all evil. We know this, right? The floodgates open when it comes to election time. They spend money like crazy. They fundraise really well. They almost outspend Republicans 2-1 on races and elections they seem to find important. For example, Pritzker in Illinois. Now, he's a billionaire, mind you, so he can spend whatever money he wants. But he's spending millions of dollars on a job that only gets him $175,000 a year, and it's a job that he could have easily won either way without spending the money. But he did. He spent $151 million on Illinois' election to get reelected, and it was decided within 10 minutes. More than likely, it was decided before Election Day, almost 2 weeks before Election Day. They also love to spend money on programs that don't really help Americans or America in general. They like to send money overseas that do nothing to advance the American agenda. For instance, spending trillions of taxpayer dollars on climate and spending millions of dollars on equity, because equity is more important than equality. You know, their message, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah, they spend money on that. This climate obsession and equity obsession is also tied into a couple other things later on. But they will spend $1 billion even to save $1. The solution? Well, Republicans have tried this in Congress, but Congress has the authority with regards to spending. And how do you stop Democrats out of control spending? You win elections. Again, you have to win elections. You have to beat them in order to stop them. And with the House still up for grabs, it looks like the Republicans can take back the House. That goes a long way to stopping the spending. Take back the power of the purse through Congress. What can you do locally yourself? Well, stop giving money to things that support their cause. You know, voting matters also, but voting with your money, your own personal money, with investments. Take your money out of woke banks, these big banks, Bank of America, Chase, PNC, and take it to a smaller bank, your local community banks. Put your money there. Stop spending money on companies that feed Democrat causes. Planned Parenthood fundraises a lot. They have, if you have Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, those companies will fund Democrat-led operatives and organizations. Stop putting your money where Democrats can gain it, an opportunity to steal it. Number 3. This one has been an issue culturally. It is the left's obsession with gender politics. Well, while some of you that listen, most of you that listen to my episodes, know where I stand on this issue, there are only two genders, right? Last time I checked, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a biologist, but I know that I'm myself a man, and I know that my wife is a woman. At least I'm about 95 to 100% convinced of that, just by body, and also Christianity. That's a big one, religious, being a Christian and understanding that men and women play roles unique to themselves and complementary. There are only two genders, no matter what the left tries to tell you, and boy, will they tell you that there are 100 genders. You can be a woman, you can be a man, you can be a dog, you can be a cat, you can be a fox, you can be an elephant, you can be a lamp, you can literally be an object. So that's their obsession. They're obsessed with telling you that there are multiple genders and that gender and sex are different than just biology, and it's a social construct to them. They don't believe that it can be confined to binary terms like male and female. And it is absolutely magical and fantasy and, again, hypocritical, because this is the same party that fought for decades or almost 100 years fighting for women's rights. And in 2022, they can't tell you what a woman is, despite not being a biologist and claiming to be pro-choice champions of my body, my choice. They still cannot tell you what a woman is, but you can be a woman or a man or a goat or a sheep. This gender war that they have decided to take on really has sparked an enormous debate, and it's one that's easily won. It's backed up by science, biology, and those two know no limits. Fact is, there are chromosomal differences between male and female. There are characteristics that make male and female different. In the Bible, marriage and societal roles have been defined clearly for men and women. God made man in his image, and he made woman from man to be his helper. Different, but equal and complementary. And he didn't say anything about Adam deciding that he can be Eve, or Eve can be Steve, or Adam can make names and come up with names for animals so that he can become an animal. That doesn't happen. Ever. Men and women are men and women. Men can't get pregnant. Sorry to you blue-hard liberals out there listening if you creep on my page. Men cannot ever get pregnant. The left has tried to win this war on gender in the recent years, and to an extent, we sit back and take it because we think that, it doesn't involve me, so why should I care? Well, we are a moral and just nation. We believe in equality for all, but not equity. And we can't believe in this insanity that there are 47 genders and an infinite amount of things you can be. That just doesn't exist. The left is lying. They are living in a fantasy world if they tell you that there are, and we have to call them out. Start calling them out. So the solution, well, you ignore their demands. I'm not going to pretend that you are a man if you are in fact a woman. I'm not going to pretend that you are a woman if you are in fact a dude. You're a dude if you have a beard and you have testicles and you have an XY chromosome. Sorry. And if you bleed, if you're a male and you bleed 4 days every month, you need to go see a doctor because that is clearly something wrong. But ignore the left's demands to make you think that they can pretend to be whatever they want. Now they have male and female and and non-binary and all these other woke terms. They believe that they can be furries. They have these actually in schools now, as young as high school age, that they can be cats, and they need litter boxes and cat toys and catnip because they can be cats now. You hear that, America? We've resorted to high schoolers wanting to be called cats because they believe they are a cat. Insane. Science is always on our side, but also God. Number 4. This is a good one. The left has this crazy obsession with climate. And not just climate, but that they make it a crisis, that we're all going to die in 10 years unless we spend trillions of the world's money on fixing something that we cannot fix, ever. I'm not saying the climate isn't changing. It certainly has. We've evolved over time to also curtail some of the effects. The ice caps up north have melted, but they have not resulted in any major catastrophe to this point. The Titanic did sink, but that was the own stupidity of the ship and lack of technology at the time to decipher when they could actually turn and steer away from the iceberg. Now we have a thing called sonar. We can pick up things from a distance. So they have this obsession with climate. Everything's a crisis. Everything's the world's going to end unless you vote for Democrats and spend money on climate programs. That also feeds into money. John Kerry recently said that the world, according to scientists said this to him, not just anybody, but scientists, said that the world has to spend a total of $2 trillion, that's trillion with a T, annually to combat the emissions that we give out globally. And he says because that's not a very doable thing, even though we should still try to spend trillions of dollars, it's not going to be enough because the world doesn't have it. Really, John? We don't have it? Huh. Oh, that's a new thing, right? We don't have enough money to spend on climate change. Their obsession with climate has cost the American economy trillions of dollars, and the world has suffered. Meanwhile, in the World Economic Forums, the climate summit leaders have traveled across the globe in their private jets, and they are flocking together in their oil-based jets. Yes, jet fuels. Millions of gallons of jet fuel has been spent and used and burned in order to tell you that you need to spend $2 trillion to fight climate change. So let them tell you that oil is bad, but then turn around and spend a whole lot of money and a whole lot of oil telling you that oil is bad. So never forgive the left. That was my rule a couple of years ago. It's one of my golden rules. You've heard Bongino lash out and tell you his golden rules. That is one of my golden rules. Never forgive the left. And also a new one I've come up with today, never trust the left. You can call it out whatever you want, and you can forgive them if you want. But if you forgive them, they're not going to be sincere about it, and they'll just do something and do the same thing after that. But number 2 golden rule, never trust the left. When John Kerry says you should not spend any more money on gas and spend trillions of dollars on New Green Deal and climate green weenie crap, all while sitting in a cockpit-driven plane with oil coming out of the backside. I'm just saying he's not right. Again, it's not hypocrisy, it's hierarchy. They're in charge. You're not. Sit down. Shut up. The solution, all while destroying the energy industry in the process. The solution to this, again, it comes down to you have to win elections. How do you limit the spending? How do you limit the insanity that the left is trying to shove down our throats? You have to win. And you also have to stand back and tell them, shut up. This is not happening. You need stronger candidates, stronger leaders on the Republican Party, and you need to have a message and call them out. You need to spend money wisely and not on stupid programs that do nothing to advance American causes. Climate change is not a real thing. The climate does change, but to the effect that we're all going to die in 10 years unless you vote Democrat, it's not going to happen. I hate to say it, it's not. That's your solution to solving the climate obsession of the left. You have to win elections, and that shuts off the monetary flow to their causes. And you have to fire these people from these positions. Now, I know that seems like a pipe dream because we got spanked in some of these races. But we did make a lot of ground. So you have to keep winning elections and keep holding these people accountable. Hold your representatives, hold your state senators, hold your national senators accountable. Tell them to stop spending money on climate change. It doesn't work. Your taxes are going up as a result. Number 5. That was number 4 of the obsession list. Number 5 is perhaps my favorite, and it is the most important one that I feel we should fight. If you are like-minded individuals that listen to my show, it is the left's obsession with destroying long-standing American traditional values of God, marriage, and family. Now, what does that mean? Well, the left, by and large, not all Democrats don't believe in God. Not all Democrats are against marriage between men and women and family. Not all. But most of the progressive left currently in charge, and in general the voting bloc, they are secular in nature. They tend to think that you should marry whoever you want. So their idea, now the ideologues in charge of policies and the voices, like in Washington, D.C., basically any time they disagree with traditional values, they will speak out against it harshly. If they can get God and family out of your life, you are then easier to manipulate and control. When you can't cling to your God, your Bible, and your gun, you can be easily manipulated, right? So there's a funny stat, and it's alarming because of the shift in voting blocks currently. 27% of Gen Z made up the voting base for Democrats. That's a pretty large chunk of voting block for Democrats. And Gen Z is the under 30 part of the population. They're the ones that snort condoms, eat Tide Pods, do the stupid challenges. And yes, they vote Democrat because Democrats have promised them all kinds of free things like college, food, rent for a year, those kinds of things. They promise. But let me tell you, liberals, if you're that age, some of you might be listening that are that age, and you vote Democrat because they promised you free things. There's nothing in this country that is free. Everything has a price. So when they tell you that something is free, chances are you're going to pay for it sooner or later. I'm just going to tell you a food for thought. So they promote this idea of pro-choice, not have babies. What they really mean is killing babies before they're born. And with the high percentage of unmarried single women voting Democrats, that is their largest issue. They made that their singular issue in the election, abortions. That's a different topic for a different day. Their goal, the left's goal, is to destroy the nuclear family. Minority communities always been the subject of this issue because almost all of them at some point have a single-parent household. That alone helps breed homes that promote traumatic events, gender confusions, LGBTQ households, and a godless way of thinking. When the left can take you out of the church, the home, the marriage, they can control your way of thinking, and you believe everything they say. They believe love is love. Anyone should marry who they love, regardless of gender, binary norms. And they've really pushed the LGBTQ agenda, the woke agenda that I've talked about before. They've slammed it down our throats. You either accept it or you're racist or you're bigoted or you hate gays. And it's nonsense. It's ridiculous. It's not true. Actually, Trump was probably one of the most pro-gay presidents of our lifetime and the things that he did to help protect those rights. Again, we have those rights currently in some of the states that have passed. Federally, there are protections for gay marriage. But if you look back, America has always had a population that has been gay. There's been populations in this country that have done different things. They've never been brought to the forefront that it is today, that the left has taken a hold of, but it's an issue that they have made bigger than it should be. The issue of gay marriage and whether or not it should be allowed is a major debated issue. Personally, as a Christian, and if you support the traditional norm and Christian values of a covenant between man and woman, to each his own on whether they agree or disagree on what that should look like. But I strongly believe that a marriage between man and woman should be the only kind of marriage. Everything else goes against the traditional norms and values of our country. And if you believe in God, you are against this outlier of beliefs that marriage is anything other than man and woman uniting under God. That goes along hand in hand with the left's obsession with creating a single family home and making sure that LGBTQ plus IA alphabet leaders have more rights than others. And if you're a Christian, if you're straight and you're married, you are the worst human possible. So don't let them, tell you that, because you're not. If you're a Christian and you're married and you're straight and you're happy and you're doing things the right way and you believe in God, you are doing the best thing you can do for yourself and your country. This is a country founded on beliefs, religious freedoms. We have that. But also, we were a country strongly founded on Christian Judean values. And the left wants to destroy those. They want to rewrite history and tell you that it's okay to be gay. It's okay to be gay and love God. Yes, Jesus loved those who sinned against him and loved those who were not perfect. And I by no means one to be standing on the holy pulpit giving this advice or giving this speech, but just here to tell you that the left has these overwhelming characters of their beliefs, and they're trying to destroy America based on these extreme outliers. A solution to this fifth obsession of destroying these traditional values. Well, a country this large and this diverse, you're going to have segments of population that don't believe in Jesus for whatever reason. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in the things that he teaches us and that we are all created by him. They don't believe in man and woman, that is the only relationship that is to be had under God. They don't believe that family is the end all to a happy life. They believe that you can be gay, straight, cat, dog, hippo, and leave a happy life. But the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, ideally in this country, at least in my honest opinion, is that pursuit of the American dream. Buying your own home, owning your car, and getting married and having a family. And the left seeks to rewrite that and destroy it. So the churches, I think the churches are part of this solution to this last point. Churches need to be more involved publicly and politically. I know some pastors and some churches are hesitant to speak out politically because they think they don't have a place to say it. But actually, a good way to stand up to the left and their woke mob mentality and everything that they stand against, a good way to do that is to get the churches involved, to stand up and say, you know what? No, we're not doing this anymore. We're not buying into this pronoun stating, crybaby, stompy foot way of doing things by the left. You're not going to tell us what to do anymore. And it needs to stop. I think one real solution to this destruction of American values and God, marriage, and family is to get churches involved more politically. Getting them to stand up and say, no more of this pretending to do this. So, in closing, their obsessive nature is by far annoying, is at times destructive, but there's real solutions we could do. I've outlined them so far, and there's more obsessions they have, but these are the top 5 that I feel are important in order to save this great country we live in, and return and restore those values that makes America great. We need to take action. We are a nation founded on tradition. We are a godly nation. We are a moral nation. We have traditions and values that make us different and unique, and a reason why America is one of the greatest nations on this earth. We have the freedoms and religious practices that make up no other nation. America is a nation that has a diverse background, but they have a tradition of upholding these values that we on the conservatives side and the right side of things see as important to us to get our country back. So I think in order to take these things back, we need to step up. We need to stand up and speak out and take back these traditions by telling the left no. You can play stompy foot all you want. In order to take our country back, pray, speak, and act. I have 2 key verses to leave you with tonight that I found relate to today's episode. Anything is possible if a person believes. Mark 9:23. And I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. And that is from Philippians 4:13. As always, guys, follow me on Facebook at The Ryan Mack Show and wherever you get your podcasts. Good night.